Hi there, I'm Jocie from One Project Closer, and I'm here to talk to you about the basics of chainsaw use. I know that this is a tool that gave me pause at first using it because it is a very dangerous, very powerful piece of equipment. But it is great for those DIYers and homeowners who maybe have some small trees on your property or have had trees taken down and you want to cut them up for firewood, which is what we've done a lot of in the last couple of years. What I have here is the STIHL 251 chainsaw. It's a smaller chainsaw that's great for home use and one that we've really used a lot. And they have some really great features that I'll get to later that I think make it really great for the novice chainsaw user. First up, we got our STIHL chainsaw from our local Ace Hardware, which is really great because me being newer to chainsaws, they really walked me through how to use the chainsaw safely. They walked me through all the features. So first up, as I said, this is a powerful piece of equipment and you need to handle it with caution and care and use your brain. It's important to use the right safety equipment. I've got here gloves. That's also really important when you're just doing maintenance to avoid cutting yourself. I have these great chaps that are really wonderful to protect your legs. And then it's also really important to wear eye protection and head protection and ear protection. I really love this chainsaw helmet because it also keeps the debris out of your face, protects your ears, and protects your head. All right, so I'm going to walk you through what we have here. This chainsaw uses a gas mix, and STIHL provides this really handy moto mix, which I really love because it's stable for a long time. You don't need to add stabilizer. You don't need to worry about mixing your own. It already comes mixed and it stays good for a really long time. So I love that. And this nice little nozzle works great too. Also, we have our bar and chain oil, which is really wonderful and keeps that chain moving smoothly without sticking. You'll see here on the chainsaw, up here is where you put the bar and chain oil, and back here is where you put the gas. Another important safety feature that this chainsaw and most chainsaws feature is the chain brake. And this will be pushed back, and when you are sawing a piece of wood, if the bar kicks back towards you, your arm will automatically bump up against this, pushing it forward and stopping the chain from running. So make sure that when you're holding your chainsaw and using it, your hand is in a position that this chain brake can be utilized. Okay, so we've talked about the gas mix, the chain lube, also when you're and the chain brake. Over here, we've got the throttle interlock. And what's important about this is it's a nice feature that you have to be pressing both these little triggers in order for the chain to start. And that will bring it up to full throttle. Over here, we have our chain, and there's a lot of important things to look at when looking at the chain. Be sure to always wear your gloves when handling the chain so you don't cut yourself. When you're looking at the chain, you want it to be the right tension. And that's really important because you want it to flow smoothly like this without stopping, but you don't want it to be overly loose. One thing I really like about the STIHL 251 is that you can adjust the tension very easily right from here without getting out a wrench or anything like that. So I really like that about the chain on the 251. So we've got your chain, and you want to make sure it's smooth. You want to make sure it's not too tight, but also not too loose. You don't want it hanging down off. It's really important to have a sharp chain. Some signs that your chain may not be sharp and you need to either sharpen it or get a new chain is that you have to apply too much pressure when cutting through the wood. Or you might notice that the sawdust is fine and not coarse. You might notice some smoke. And you might also notice that the saw is sort of rattling or bouncing. Those are all some signs that you need to sharpen your chain. I really love STIHL has come out with this easy sharpener that shows you just how the angle with which to sharpen and which direction to sharpen in. You see they have these arrows, and you line it up and put it on there and just go in one direction, and you're going to want to go just 2 or 3 times until you notice that it's sharpened, and then you'll move the chain down and move every other notch to continue going down. And then when you go in the opposite direction, you're just going to turn it over and work in the opposite direction. It makes it so much easier sharpening your chain. So I love this tool from STIHL. Once you have a sharp chain and you've checked your oil and your gas, you're ready to start your chainsaw. It's really important. There's a couple of ways that you can safely start it, but I always start it on the ground. I find it the safest. I feel most confident when I start it on the ground. When starting up the chainsaw, you're going to want to prime it first. And you'll press that yellow bubble about 3 times. And then you're going to press both triggers while pushing down into start. You'll place one foot under the handle while holding the chainsaw firmly in place and pulling sideways. This chainsaw is very smooth and doesn't require a lot of pull to get started. You're going to want to make sure and always use the bottom edge or the top edge of your chainsaw. Don't ever start with the tip. It's also really important that when you start your cut, it should be at full throttle. Your chain should really be moving and have that momentum to cut through. Also, when cutting wood, make sure you only cut 3/4 the way down through the wood. Do not cut all the way to the ground. And that's really important because you don't want to dull your blade on the ground, and you also don't want a kickback. So use that safely. So you're going to cut 3/4 down through the wood, all the way down the log in usually about 16-inch pieces, because that's about what fits in your fireplace is 16 inches. So you'll cut every 16 inches. And again, if you need help, the length of this blade is 16, some are 18 inches, but that's like a really good measure of how long you should cut. So you'll cut 16 inches down and only go 3/4 down, and then you'll roll the log and cut again. It's really important that when you're cutting on the ground that you have the log stabilized so it won't roll at all when you're cutting. So you can wedge pieces in between on the sides of the log to prevent it from rolling, because you do want to cut safely. We hope we've covered a lot of your questions on chainsaw basics and how to use a chainsaw safely and the proper safety equipment. Again, the most important safety equipment is your brain and using the chainsaw safely and taking the proper safety precautions. But we encourage you to go do your research and enjoy all that firewood you're going to cut this winter, and we'll see you back next time. Thanks so much.